want to thank everybody for coming today. We're going to go ahead and get started. I know AJ had called me and said he was coming, and I know he must be running a little bit late. We're going to start out with our running for the commission first. So we will have 5 minutes to talk, and then after the 4 speak for the city commission, then we will have a few questions. Then we'll have the 2 for the mayor. Now you know what? We'll have all the questions at the end. So we'll do the 4 for the commission first, and then the 2 for running for mayor to talk, and then we'll have questions after that. They'll each get 5 minutes to speak. If you have a pressing question that you have to have an answer right away, we might let you go ahead and ask that, but we're going to try and keep this on so it runs smooth and we can try and not stay after too late. And when it's finished, we hope that you will stay around and talk to our people. There is refreshments in the back for everyone to enjoy, so that way you can talk one-on-one, see if you have any questions for that, you can get those answered. If you don't want to bring it up during the meeting. So we will go ahead and start, David, since you're on the end, we'll start with you.
Also, my last name starts with E, so this happens all the time. I'm David Esrati. I'm running for Dayton City Commission. And I think there's one critical difference between my campaign, the Mr. Greer campaign, and the other candidates' campaigns. And that's that we've restricted ourselves to raising and spending only $10,000. We joined with the mayor with his $10,000 challenge in the primary, and we're sticking to that. Now the question really is how much should it cost to run for Dayton City Commission? And where does that money come from? And what's that money buying? Because frankly, yard signs, mailings, all that stuff doesn't really contribute to the greater good of our community. And after I saw $360,000 expended in the mayoral primary, I said, there's got to be a better way. There's got to be a different way to approach this. So instead of buying yard signs, although I still have some left over from previous campaigns, I went on to Tuffy Brooks and I spent $200 and bought my first box of 100 nets, basketball nets. And I started going and hanging them throughout the city. City courts, some church courts, closed boys and girls club courts. And after a while, I started realizing a couple things. One, it was more than just the basketball nets that weren't being taken care of, obviously. I had to clear weeds off the courts. And I think the best example of that was probably over at Parkside Homes, where this is what I found. With weeds growing through, those are stink trees growing right through the court. So I came back, I spent a good couple hours, 3 hours, and cleared that court. So now we have 2 more basketball courts, and then there was another one. So 3 more basketball courts the kids can play on. This is the typical state. We got rust. We got this poor kid out there, and he had to shake the pole every time to get his ball back. We got brand new school buildings where we have 1 rim for a court. Or we have ones that were donated by corporations where this is what it looks like. We have backboards that are chewed up. That's the rim across from that backboard. And at this point, I kept going and doing what I could. And I asked some of my donors, and some came through, and I now have hung 3 new rims over at Princeton Rec Center so the kids can play full court ball. And I've run for commission quite a few times. But I've never had so many people say thank you as running this time. It's changing what the discussion is about. And what we really want to talk about is what do we want to deliver. We've seen the last 30 years of grandiose projects that were supposed to save Dayton, Courthouse Square, the arcade tower, Riverscape, over and over. We've invested in these white elephants, and we haven't invested in our people, in our community, in our neighborhoods. Our parks look horrible. There's no excuse for this. Grass, weeds, the rust. We're making a statement to our community that we don't care about our community, and it's time to change that. Myself and Mr. Greer want to get on the commission to start putting the money back into the community. back into the neighborhoods, trying to reinvest in the people of our community. And me in particular want to end the digital divide. There are parts of Dayton where you can't even get Wi-Fi over cell phone. You can't get LTE or 3G over your cell phone. When Google Fiber was announced, it was a great idea, as long as Google was doing. When Google went to Kansas City, we forgot about it. We're going to have to do this and invest ourselves. I'm not worried about tearing buildings down. I'm worried about building our community back up. I'm thinking about ideas that can get people to want to move into this community and be your neighbor. That's what I've done in South Park and been involved in the last 27 years, where property values have gone up, where foreclosed homes are bought and restored, and people feel a sense of community. We have a shortage of homes and rentals in South Park, and I want to see that spread throughout the city. And I know how you do that, and it's to invest in the people first. So, thank you very much. Stick around for questions.
Hi, good evening. Wait, let's try that again. Good evening.
Good evening.
Good. I'm Jeffrey Mims, and I have more than 40 years of service to my community, to the state and city, and also to my country. I'm a Vietnam veteran in 1967 and 1968. Additionally, I've worked for 35 years as a retiree from the Dayton school system, where I was both a teacher, a coach, taught at Belmont for 7 years. Also, I've worked as the Director of Government Relations and Governmental Affairs. Also, I've been the Director of the program for New Futures for Youth, which is dealing with the at-risk youth that we have in the city of Dayton. Additionally, I've been a government relations person also for the Ohio Education Association, as well as the president of the school board, president of the teacher union, and currently I am on the state school board for the 3rd District. And as you can see and understand that I've been around, I've been involved, and I've been in leadership positions virtually all of my life. When I was 2 months old, I was born in Alabama. I rented a car and brought my parents to Dayton, Ohio, because I knew I wanted to be in Dayton. At that point in time, we lived in a variety of places throughout the city. My parents were not wealthy at all. We lived in sometimes people's attics. We lived in sometimes in people's basements. We lived in a variety of places, again, like I said, throughout the city. So I know the city, pretty well. I've raised my children here. I was raised here. Both of my children are married. One lives here, the other one lives away, but they both were educated in Dayton Public Schools. They both have gone on to further their careers in college and post-college degrees, both married and both have children. There's a reason why I'm running for this position, and it's because I know the greatness that Dayton once had. I know Dayton is a lot better than a lot of people think that it currently is right now. As we look just until last week, we had gone 9 straight weeks without a murder in the city of Dayton, and that's throughout the summer, which is something that's almost unheard of. There are a lot of good things that are happening. We have some entertainment issues that are happening in Dayton. We have growth. We have a lot of assets in the city of Dayton. We have a great water system. We have a great transportation system. We have a great hospital network. We have a great higher educational system. We have a tremendous amount of resources in which to build on. My challenge is very simple, and my desire is to make Dayton the great place that it can be and should be. Dayton is the core, physically, of this region, and it should be a vibrant core. I have a lot of pain when I see the quality of life situations outside of Dayton that are better than what they are in Dayton. And my challenge and my promise to you is that I can't fix everything, but if you look at my history and the type of things that I've done, I always make them better. So on November 5th, vote for Jeffrey Mims. I appreciate that very much, and thank you for your time. And of course, I'll be here to respond to your questions.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is David Greer. Some of you know me. I've been here before. I was born and raised in Dayton, Ohio. I've lived here all my life. I retired in 2004 from Wright-Patterson Air Force Base after 31 years. But prior to that retirement, back in '96. I moved into the house I presently live in. Well, there was a one-woman welcoming committee in that neighborhood, and she talked me into getting involved in the neighborhood association. Well, initially I was a little reluctant because I was new, hadn't even been there 2 weeks. But she was persistent, and so I started attending neighborhood association meetings, so I joined the neighborhood association. And the reason why I feel that I went on and joined the neighborhood association, because back in the early 70s, or early in my career, I had a situation whereas I was told that I had to change jobs due to having low blood sugar. Although my doctor had returned me back to work, clean bill of health. And during that time I was a firefighter. And I loved doing that because there was the brotherhood that existed in being a firefighter is something that you have to actually do to really relate to it. But because of the bureaucracy, they said that, well, no, this disqualifies you for being a firefighter. So I went into other areas, and because it was in God's plan, you know, it worked out well for me. So joining the neighborhood association and working with the neighborhood, I had that quest because I felt that if our society had systems in place that were unjust, then I need to be the one, or be one, who would fight for those injustices for the people, because I experienced it firsthand myself. And so that's when it started through the neighborhood association, which ultimately in '99 I joined the Northwest Priority Board. As a lot of neighborhood associations and priority boards are, the membership has become seasoned. You know, so being younger and a new kid on the block, in 2000, after only being in there 1 year, I was elected vice chair. Being vice chair, there was a lot of things that fell on my position, especially because I was younger. I like filling calls from residents daily, going out and checking on issues, you know, things that I felt passionate about because it was helping people. In 2005, I got elected as chairman of the board, which I still presently am, chairman of the Northwest Priority Board. Still, I continue to field calls, you know, from residents, because I freely give my own personal number out to them because people need help. And that's what my calling is, to help people, to be that conduit for our infrastructure, for the services that we need in order to enhance the quality of life factors. So being the chairman and interfacing with those entities in our city government, and I've even had affiliations with our county government as well, through other affiliations and boards that I am on. I learned through the experience of dealing with those entities that there are differences on how these different entities respond to citizens. I myself personally would be subjected to whether individuals having a bad day, you know, or being put off, put on hold.
30 seconds.
Okay, nobody getting back to me, you know, so we've been talking that long. So I decided to do it from the inside, since it wasn't working from the outside. So on November the 5th, please consider me to vote for city commissioner. Thank you.
You're up, Chair.
My turn. Great. Oh. Does anybody here, I saw something that came in after. Does everybody have a piece of literature? Leave one back there. We'll get these to you. Here you go. I don't think I'm gonna need a full 5 minutes, to be honest with you. Okay, hey, good to see you guys today. I see some familiar faces out here. My name is Joey Williams. I'm the current city commissioner. I'm running for re-election. I want to thank you all for any past support, and I'm here to ask you for your support again. I want to tell you a little bit about me. I don't like to go into too much background. I really want to talk about the things that are going on now, but just by way of background, so you know, I am a native Daytonian, went to Dayton Public Schools, graduated from Central State with a degree in finance, and I have an MBA from Ohio State. My professional career has been as a banker. I've worked in commercial banking most of my life, had nothing to do with any of those mortgages, any of those issues that people talk about when you discuss issues around bankers. I'm a commercial banker, okay? Commercial banker. Been doing that for a long time. I really enjoy being a commercial banker, get an opportunity to help folks who bring jobs to town. That gives me some insight on some of the things as it relates to how you bring jobs to town and what employers really talk about and think about. They share things with me that perhaps they wouldn't put in day-to-day needs. And so I think that's helpful. I think what I want to do is just tell you a little bit about what I call sort of my Joey's blueprint for a 5-star Dayton. And you see that in the back of this information. The first thing I'd like to talk to you about is what's always been most important to me as a commissioner is to make sure that somebody in the commission is making sure we manage the money right, making sure that we're looking at the finances on a regular basis. When I first came to the city commission, the commissioners only looked at the finances when the staff came to them and said, we have an issue, or here's something you should know. That might happen once in a month, it might happen again for 4 months later. When I came, I asked that we meet monthly to talk about the finances. That's really boded very well for us, particularly since this happened before the recession. And as a result, our city has actually had upgrades by Moody's and S&P. Those are the third-party organizations that evaluate cities. So I'm really proud of what we've done from a financial management perspective. We've still got our issues as it relates to our revenues. Our revenues have been declining for a number of years, and they've started to flatten now. But what's important to me is whatever revenues we take in, whatever taxpayer dollars we have, that we manage those correctly. We only have to go some 200 miles north to a place I used to live, Detroit, Michigan, and see what can happen when you don't manage the finances right. So if you look at commission candidates, one clear differentiator I want you to always remember when you look at Joey Williams is that I'm going to make sure that we manage our money correctly. I'm going to try to go through some of these others really quickly. I'm going to come back to the second point because, to be honest, that second point has become my #1 priority by far. I'm going to come back to that one. Focusing on attracting and retaining jobs. Often I get the call or I get notified if there's an issue. I know a lot of the business folks in town, there has been a loss of jobs, and it's for a variety of reasons.
2 minutes.
Really, already? I need to hurry up. Okay. I'm having a good time, so retaining jobs is a big deal. Enhancing our youth, you know, it's hard to keep track of all the things we do for our young people, but improving this facility and improving other facilities and building a new facility, that was all for our seniors and our young people. And we don't just build facilities, we do things for our young people. As you all may know, we have after-school programs right here for free. Kids can come here after school, they stay till 5:30, they get fed. This is what the city does. We find programs to do that here. So we try to do things for our young people, tangible things that count. I'm going to jump quickly to the thing that's really the most important to me, and I hope I get a chance to answer any questions. We have to do everything we can to continue to make our streets safer. Mr. Mims mentioned it. We were all so proud that we went over 9 weeks without having a homicide in the city of Dayton. That wasn't by luck. We have lots of programs that are working together. Clergy, individuals, organizations, the city, our police department, other police departments, all working together like never before. We had a block party last week just so that the community and the police officers can come together and just talk in a friendly manner. All these things are making it so that people feel more comfortable telling the police issues. So for me, my #1 priority going forward, even though I think the finance piece is something very unique that I bring to the table, and I'm going to continue doing that, what I'm focused on like a laser, I think we need a crusade for reducing violence in our community. That is what I will be spending the majority of my time and energy on, and I really think we're on something here. I talked to some business leaders in the midst of this 9-week about homicides. It's an economic development tool. They get so excited about that. So I'm sure I'll have an opportunity to talk more. My name is Joey Williams. I'm running for re-election. Please remember me on the committee. Thank you.
You want to start with Karl? Karl is speaking for Nan Whaley, who is in Indianapolis.
You, me? Well, good evening. I am not Nan Whaley. But I'm happy to be here to represent Nan. As you said, I'm Karl Keith. I'm the Montgomery County Auditor. I thought it would be just fun for AJ and I to be here together. several weeks ago, so she's not able to be here. She didn't want me to express her regrets. And since my wife and I just live down the street, she asked if I could come and fill in. I'm happy to do that. So I'm not the candidate, so let me spend just a couple of minutes just to tell you why I support Nan Whaley for mayor. I've known Nan since she first came to Dayton, student at the University of Dayton. That was when I first met her. And as I've gone to know her over the years, I've always been impressed with her leadership ability, her leadership skills, her commitment for public service, her commitment to helping others. When I became county auditor, I knew that one of the most important positions that I would fill in my office would be that of my executive assistant. And the very first person I thought of that I wanted in that position was Nan Whaley. Again, because of her energy, her commitment to service, and Nan's one of these people that when she takes on a job, she won't let it go until she feels like she's done the job and done it well. She served me well in the auditor's office, and then I was very proud of her when she ran for election. Now serving, this is her second term on the Dayton City Commission. Again, I've been equally impressed with her service on the commission and her commitment to the community, and how much she really loves this community and loves what she does. I know that when my wife is here with me this evening, Doris, and I purchased a home here in Dayton. We made an investment in this community because we believe in the community, and Nan Whaley believes in this community. She loves the community. She wants to see it successful, and she wants to see it grow and prosper like all of us do. One of the things, again, as my role of county auditor, one of the things that I've had the opportunity to work with Nan on over the past several years is the whole issue of abandoned property and the declining property values throughout the county. She and I, along with the county treasurer, Carolyn Rice, worked very hard to establish a land bank at the county government to work to get that land bank funded. Again, this is just it's not a silver bullet that will solve this problem, but it's one tool in our toolbox to help us deal with the abandoned property that's rampant throughout all of our neighborhoods across the entire city, which is having such a dire impact on property values. And Nan was right there leading that charge and helping us work through that. The land bank legislation that we got through the legislature that year, I think it was one of only 6 bills that passed the legislature that year. And it was, again, a cooperative effort from among us, from a number of us that made that happen. And that's the kind of hard work, dedicated commitment that we get in someone like Nan Whaley. And I think that makes her be the best choice for us this year in the race for Mayor of Dayton. Thank you.
AJ, it's all yours.
Thank you. Hi, I'm AJ Wagner, and I'm running for mayor. I got this history that I want to tell you about, and it starts, I'm sorry to say tonight especially, that it starts in Pittsburgh. That's where I noticed the Bengals jersey, and the best team win. That's going to be a tough race this year. I was born in Pittsburgh, and I grew up in Beaver Falls, Pennsylvania. I had the great fortune of being one of 18 children. I'm the oldest boy. I'm number 3 in the bunch, and it means I learned a lot about work early. We did grow up in poverty, but we had much more than what kids today in poverty have, because we had 2 loving parents, and they were terrific. So I had early experiences of having jobs and doing work. I had my newspaper route by the time I was 10. By the time I was 12, I was a junior lifeguard working at the swimming pool. By the time I was 16, I was in my first union as Amalgamated Meat Cutters and Butchers Union. As I worked at Kroger's, I became a steel worker when I was in college and in the summers. And while I was in college in classrooms, I was a janitor at a bank at night. I became a bank teller eventually with that bank, and they asked me into management training, but I got accepted to law school. And this was after a year of teaching. I used to teach 3rd grade. I have an education degree. Around that same time, by the way, when I graduated from college, I had the good fortune of marrying my wife, Joan, 40 years ago, 40 plus years ago. She's sitting right there, and I love her and I appreciate her being here. We've had 2 children here in Dayton. We moved to Dayton so I could go to law school here at the University of Dayton. up after law school, starting, during law school, I should tell you, I worked for the Dane City Commission as a legislative aide to the commission. I worked in the city manager's office, and then I worked in planning and economic development. So I have some experience with the city. I eventually became chair of their civil service board. I was also on the RTA board, and I've served on a lot of community boards, a lot of charitable boards over the years. I'm currently on the Artemis Center board for domestic violence. I'm on Big Brothers Big Sisters board, executive committee. I am with Think TV Visionary Society. I'm on their board, and the Greater Dane Christian Connections. So I've got a lot of board work that I'd like to do, all toward how do we help the community? What do we do for a community? And that's what's important to me. I thought it was good to enter the political life. My dad was a city commissioner back where I grew up, Democrat city commissioner. So, he's a councilman, And so I did that, thank you. I did that, and then I became Montgomery County auditor back in 1991. Did that for 10 years, and then I became Montgomery County Police Court judge. I'm not done. I'm only 61 years old, and I feel like I've got lots of energy left and lots of hope left in me yet. I want to change the world, so I'm here to try and help where I can in Dayton. We've got some real issues in Dayton. We've got some real problems, not only in the loss of population, but particularly in the loss of jobs. We have 9,000 fewer jobs than we had just 5 years ago, and we haven't gained any jobs in the last 3 years. We actually are 100 lower than we were 3 years ago. That's a huge problem, because when you look at the vacant houses and the vacant land and everything, all that reflects what's happened with our jobs. All that's reflected by the fact that people have had to leave here if they wanted to get jobs. Our 2 children that I told you about are adults now, and they live in Columbus and Boston respectively, and I miss them. I wish they were here. But it's hard to get them here because there simply aren't any jobs here. So I'm going to sit down now. I'll address the problems as you raise them, and we'll talk some more.
Have fun.
Okay, give me one example of something that you, as a commissioner or as a mayor, can change to make the city better. Just one idea that you want to implement, or that you're working on, or
I can tell you
and in
something.
your case, what you think the inmates.
What's the time
I don't see how much time you want for that. That's a good question.
You got 2 minutes.
2 minutes. I'm just gonna tell you the thing I'm working on is the most exciting to me is the action that we have around reducing violence. We have organizations such as Community Initiative to Reduce Gun Violence. I'm the City Commission liaison for that. We have a new group that we started called the Community Police Council, where what we found out, what we knew already, but we really found was even worse than we thought. There's this huge issue between the relationship between members of the community and members of the police. Everybody has kind of a great relationship you guys have with the police officer you just left. Some people in our communities don't like the police officer, so we're working on ways to try to help that relationship so that people do feel comfortable making those calls. Part of what we're doing is we're working with church groups. We're working with other jurisdictions, not just Dayton, the Trotwood, the Sheriff's Office. We're pulling all these resources together in an effort to reduce gun violence and reduce violence in general. And I really believe that we're making some headway here. Again, we had some tangible results over the summer. And I really have a goal that we'll just continue to grow on that. So we did 9 weeks over the summer. Hopefully we can grow that, double that. It'll be 18 weeks, maybe half a year. I would like to see us go a whole year without a homicide. I know that's kind of something that, it's a dream, but I know it's a dream, but you got to have big dreams around here. And I think that by working together as a community, it's not just a police. We don't want a police state. We want to have strong police, but we want to have a strong community. And you look at what happened in 30 seconds. I don't have time to say this or not, but I was looking at some information on New York City. Back in the late 80s, New York City was rated as the second worst place to take a family. Second only to the place in Bosnia, going right Sarajevo and Bosnia, and that was right before the war. New York City was second. If you look at the surveys now, New York City's a place everybody wants to go. That's because they took care of the crime issues. We can do the same thing in Dayton, Ohio.
Same question.
Yep.
I feel that you gotta have a foundation for anything to prosper from. And our foundation in this case is our government infrastructure. I feel that by getting our government infrastructure to not be as dysfunctional as it is, to revamp it to whereas it is more user-friendly than it is presently, to whereas there is a concerted effort that when someone calls in, they're not just put on hold or the call drops. You know, I hear that a lot. Or I'm given an extension and sent to someone else and I don't get a response. Okay? So I think we need to build on our infrastructure in order for us to move forward in any endeavor that we want to take on. Because I believe and feel that our citizens is our best resource. And if we utilize our citizens to their capacity by allowing them to feed into the city mechanisms what they need and what's going on into the city, because the citizens have to do their portion as well. We need the citizens to become more active in helping the systems that are in place to work. But we definitely got to work on the processes and the procedures and protocol associated with our city government infrastructure. I believe that's a priority and that's a key. Thank you.
Hi. I'd like to take off on the dreams aspect that was mentioned earlier by Joey. I think probably one of the biggest things that we can do for the citizens of Dayton, especially our young people, and that is to create the hope and dreams, aspiration that they too can enjoy high quality of life and be safe and be well educated and again be employable and be employed and also raise a family, be part of a positive family that can walk the streets anytime, day or night, and again feel safe and go about their business of again enjoying life. When we look at a lot of things that we have, and I bring probably some of the most diverse set of collaborative skills. I didn't end the Vietnam War when I volunteered to go over there, but they did decide to have peace talks while I was there. Okay, so I guess I can take some credit for that. But I will also say that as we look at how we collaborate with all of our neighbors in the city, how we create this sense of hope, this sense of belonging, this sense of that you too can be a part of high quality life opportunities. When I drive out and see some of our immediate suburbs and see what they're doing in those cities, and also in terms of my position with the state school board, I work with 50 cities, 50 school districts. And when I see the type of things that they have there, I know that those things are possible for us. They're possible if we sit down and talk and find out and discuss how we can use our assets so that everyone benefits from those assets and not just those individuals and groups who have been historically benefiting from those assets. We have to make sure that our citizens are aware that this is a dream that can be attainable, and we have to trust each other and work together to build that kind of hope. Thank you.
In real life, I own an ad agency. That means people come to me to solve their problems, find ways to communicate effectively and creatively to connect people together, products to services, companies to customers, et cetera, et cetera. Now, we've seen a huge change since the year 2000, the internet. The entire country of Estonia has been covered with Wi-Fi since 2002. I just asked the police officer if I could text him a picture. No, can't do that yet. If we had our entire city covered with Wi-Fi, there's no excuse. Everybody's one gets their data plan cheaper on their smartphone. Our computers and our police cars are able to get online right away. There are all kinds kinds of benefits to it, but the most important benefit is that our kids, all of them, can get online from home, and their families can get online, because it's critical to be online. Just read a story in the New York Times yesterday about a kid in Mongolia getting accepted to MIT. How did he get accepted to MIT? Well, he took a massively open course and got a perfect score. How did he do that? Because he had online access in Mongolia. That's better than what we can do on the west side of Dayton. That's better than what we can do for our students. We have to transform Dayton and make it different than all the suburbs. We have to be the first community to give every kid a tablet or an iPad. LA did it. New Hampshire did it 4 years ago. Instead, we keep pursuing buildings and companies and everything. We've got to invest in our people. It's time to make the change and make a massive shift from trying to build a Kroger for a company or giving a 30-year tax abatement to General Electric to putting things in place that get everybody online. There isn't a job you can apply for without getting online anymore. We've got to get computers into everything. And just I had a guy show up at my door panhandling today. I put a picture up on our private Facebook group. Next thing you know, we figured out what he's up to. That's how we make communities safer, when we can communicate. Can't do that without getting people online, and we have to do it now. So digital Dayton is one of my pushes. Read it in my literature. Thank you.
AJ, you want to go next?
Sure. I have so many things I want to do first. It's going to be a tough first day. The thing is, though, up to a couple weeks ago, I had my thoughts about education, safety, jobs, neighborhoods, what we needed to get done. And then about a couple weeks ago, I was reading an article in the newspaper, and I found out that a tax break was given to our seniors back in 2006 with the promise that it would go for 8 years, along with our income tax approval, increasing our income tax by 0.5% or renewing the increase of 0.5%. For 8 years through 2014, seniors would get a tax break. That tax break was rescinded, despite the promise. And so that makes this an immediate concern. When whoever becomes mayor next year, we have to pass the reauthorization of the income tax. And we're going to apparently have to do it without the seniors. We're going to have to do it without as many of our employees living in the city, because residency is no longer required. We're going to have to do it in the midst of a recession. And yet we're going to have to convince people to pass that 0.5% approval, because if we don't, we're going to lose $20 to $25 million out of our budget. We can't do any of the things we're talking about up here, none of them, unless we get that $20 to $25 million renewed. Now, we've always done it in the past by telling seniors, look, if you vote for this, we'll give you a tax reduction. We've always had city employees who know that's part of their paycheck. But we won't have that this time. So I'm just hoping and praying that we can be persuasive enough and win back your trust so that we can get this done.
Hi. I don't want to be misrepresent Nan and single out one thing that she would focus on, but instead let me refer you to her roadmap to a better date. One of the things she has done when she became a candidate for mayor was put together what she calls a roadmap to a better date, where she identifies a number of issues that she finds is critical and identifies specific steps, specific ideas that she has to address what she finds to be the most critical issues facing our city: jobs, safety, leadership, and some environmental issues. I encourage you to take a look at that. It's got a roadmap to better Dayton. Check out her website. It's nanwhaley.com. And you can find that roadmap there. It has the information about it and identifies those steps and those ideas that she has to build a better Dayton.
Any other questions?
AJ, how do you feel that you're really different from your opponent?
Well, I think I'm different on several counts. Number one is experience. I mean, I come to this job as being a business owner and have been a business owner and counsel business owners for years. I think I would work well with other businesses who want to come here and attract businesses to come here, because I know what businesses want. I know what they need. I've done deals with businesses. Still doing it today. I'm still practicing some law. Second is that I believe that I've got specific ideas that I'm ready to implement. For instance, our housing situation is just, it's becoming worse and worse and more deplorable as we go along. And we've got to find ways and tools that will allow us to attack that problem more quickly and more vigorously than we've ever done before. Over half the properties in this town are no longer owned by somebody who lives here. They're owned by outsiders. We have to be aggressive with those folks because they tend to not maintain the properties and take care of them. Not everybody, of course, but a good number of them don't. And we have to make sure that we have systems in place that are much quicker and much more reactive in terms of getting to them and forcing them to either clean them up or pay stiff fines that will make sure that they don't come here again and try and do that kind of thing. That's something we can do, and I hope my legal background helps me define the kinds of laws that will do that. As a judge, I handled many foreclosure cases in the court, and I see what they're doing. There are ways to overcome some of that, not all of it, but some of that. We need to do that. In terms of getting more police on the street, I believe we can get more police on the street with a simple rule change in civil service. We currently require our police to take tests. We're one of the few cities left in Ohio who do that. 90-some% of the cities do not do that. They hire by qualifications. If we hire by qualifications instead of by tests, we have more police on the street. That's shocking.
I have a question. I guess I'll direct it to Mr. Williams since you're currently on the commission.
Yes.
We have a young family. We chose to buy a house here in Dayton, and part of our decisions whether to stay here, to leave, is, where's the city going in the future? I hear a lot of you guys talk about bringing in business, increasing jobs. I think part of the development in the city is going to, revolve around energy efficiency and self-sufficiency, sustainability, these type of things. I know earlier last year I heard about the city possibly replacing streetlights with LED lights and, starting to bury some of our power lines so that we don't lose power as often. What's the status of those projects, and is there anything else on the plate that's coming that we can look forward to?
Yeah. So first of all, we think that we have to have ways for young people who want to be in the cities. That's why we're always trying to reinvest and have things that we do surveys. And the surveys kind of give us a good idea of what the citizens want in general. We take those surveys, we break them down by demographics. We also, of course, talk to people ourselves. We all have our own anecdotal stories of what we know and what we see. But based upon our surveys, the young people tell us they want to have places where they can go. Everybody wants to be shopping. But the number one thing that we always get beyond that is we want safe streets. Everybody wants there to be safety in the community. So that's where we put a lot of our energy, is around trying to improve safety. And the question you asked specifically about the LED lights, that was something that came up. And that's something that is not completely off the table, but that's something that would require additional taxes to individuals. And one of the things that there were all, I guess not all, we have 4 Democrats on the commission and 1 independent. We still are very mindful of trying not to increase those taxes. We understand that there's lots of pain right now. There's lots of financial difficulties. So that's something we haven't completely taken off the table, but we're trying to understand how do you do that without causing additional pain to the taxpayers.
Could I make an observation instead of a question?
Sure.
To me, the root cause of most of these problems in our city, whether it's housing, crime, dilapidated houses, is all because of the employment situation. Everybody gets excited about creating jobs, but the jobs that are being created are minimum wage jobs that people can't even live on. I mean, that seems to me a lot of our problems, including what you're talking about, wanting to increase revenue, would be solved if we could get meaningful jobs here. And the same with abandoned housing. It's all, the root cause seems to me is just inadequate employment.
Maybe you want to comment about that?
I'd like to take a stab at that part of it because it's really systematic. One of the top agenda items that I have is improving the school and city relationship and trying to help create a situation whereas when our young kindergarten students go to school, they're not 2 and 3 years behind in their developmental skills. And that's not a school problem. That's a city and community problem. As we help address that particular problem, as I currently work with a couple other entities in terms of the Learn to Earn, also the Montgomery County House, trying to figure out how we can regionalize certain services, which in turn will save some dollars as well. But the issue in terms of how do we create a pool of workers that would make high-paying jobs come to Dayton, to have employers move here and have our citizens work in terms of those particular jobs that, like you said, have a living wage and puts them in a position where they can make a positive contribution to their community and also to their family. And when we look at the way the testing is running right now in the system, the way, again, that once our kindergartners get to school, 5 minutes after they're there, they blame the school system and the teacher. But again, they just got those children. And those children have grown up in homes where families are doing the best they can with all the challenges that we're talking about. And through no fault of their own, those young people are coming to school. Again, 80% of them that come to Dayton Public Schools are 2 and 3 years behind in their developmental skills. 66% of them in this entire county. And there's no reason for that. So all of us have to come together to do a better job and to make sure that we have a pool of employable workers and keep those graduates here. Those 24-year-olds or 26-year-olds, keep them here and make sure they want to stay here and the employers will come here for those as well. Now, it's not an overnight fix. It's not an overnight fix, but it's something, again, as we develop more trust and confidence in each other, we can make those things happen. And again, collaboration and partnership is key to identifying those issues. Thank you.
I go next. 20 years ago, I ran for mayor. One of the things I had on my campaign literature was having subsidized 24-hour daycare. Because back then, we still had professions that had 24-hour work cycles. We had a whole lot of jobs up at Emory, we had GM. Those are gone now. I'm going to tell you as a small business owner, and I'm the only small business owner up here, who has actually hired people. You just became a small business owner after you stopped being a judge. But I can tell you something about, the environment. One, we've got to do something to simplify payroll taxes in this community. We have every different jurisdiction has different payroll taxes. It's very hard for small businesses. It needs to be addressed. We can't have to file in 28 different jurisdictions, and you can't expect somebody who's a contractor to go from community to community, keep track of their hours in each one. I mean, can you think of how a heating and air company is figuring out where their employees work each day? So these things are an absolute disaster, and some of the things we have to do in terms of regionalization and Unigov. But more importantly, I think jobs don't come because government offers handouts. I think that's the lame excuse. I think that's the wrong approach. I think jobs come because people want to live in a community because it's affordable, because it's got great parks. Think about Kettering. I mean, they've got every kind of program for their kids. They've got good schools. That's why people move into the community. We have to get to the point where we are a proud community again, where we have something to offer and we don't beg for jobs. And we haven't seen that out of the commission because you know why? It costs an awful lot of money to run for office. And when you have to go to businesses and promise things, you end up doing stupid things like blowing up a perfectly good building with $1 million of our tax dollars. When other developers were there ready to develop it, we didn't help them. That's the kind of things we got to stop, and that's why $10,000 campaign. Thank you.
Okay. First of all, if you don't mind, we won't be raising taxes next year. We're just trying to keep taxes where they are right now. That's the goal of the reauthorization, and will come to us next year. I'm going to echo what Jeff Mims said to the extent that 45% of our kids live in poverty. That's a huge issue. That's a huge problem for our city. With 45% of our kids in poverty, the only way out is to make sure these kids are somehow get a better education. Now, when a child is 3 years old, they have a vocabulary of about 500 words if they're in poverty. If they're in a middle-class family, they have a vocabulary of about 1,500 words, which means they're already substantially behind. And they get further behind if somebody doesn't intervene in their lives. We need to intervene in their lives early. There was a study mentioned yesterday in the New York Times that shows that if we intervene early, at a very early age, like in the cradle, then we get children and we start to teach them not just math skills, language skills, but we also have to teach them perseverance, self-control. We have to teach them how to be good citizens. And if we start that early, those children then will succeed in kindergarten. They'll succeed in third grade. We can provide mentors. We have to do a lot more mentoring when kids are in school. Kids with mentors succeed much more than kids without mentors. They need a stable adult in their lives when they don't have any other. And then I'm proposing that we send them to St. Clair College. We pay tuition to get every child who wants to go to college into college. That's how we get the better jobs. There are a lot of jobs open in the area, but they aren't filled because we don't have enough. We don't have enough kids who've graduated either with an associate's degree or with a certificate in some kind of technical skill. Those are the jobs of the future, the technical skill jobs. So our best economic development possibilities, our best anti-crime possibilities, our best anti-poverty possibilities are all wrapped up in taking care of our children.
In addressing your question about the jobs, I think we have to educate ourselves on looking at the bigger picture. The bigger picture is inclusive of catering to special interest groups and businesses. The money. Those who have the money have a lot of influence on the way our bureaucracy goes. Now, you can look at it from one perspective as does that get business sense? Will that help the future growth of a municipality? Depending on who is speaking on that concept and on a given day, you can agree yes. But the bottom line is that influence that comes from other groups that do have money is what is controlling whether or not if we have a reputable amount of good paying jobs to become available, because there's a controlling interest, whether or not the individual businesses that come in here with big promises of creating 100, 200,000, who are really going to get those jobs. There's been several issues where they come in that way, and because they're not held to that, they don't end up fulfilling those number of jobs that they promised in order to get a tax credit or a tax break, or even to get a grant, for renovating the building that they're going to move into. So those types of parameters have to be addressed, looked at, and the improprieties associated with that have to be exposed.
Anything, or?
I don't think it's necessary to be redundant. I think what's been said, I don't disagree with what's been said. At the end of the day, it starts with our young people. You're exactly right, sir. And by the way, I'm looking forward to the game tonight, too.
What are you in for?
I'm rooting for the games. Yes, I am. I agree that there's an issue around jobs. I think what was said here, I think by most of the people before me, was that education is really key, because the reality is, I don't know the number, I think it's thousands. There are thousands of jobs in this community that go unfilled because the skill sets are not there to fill those jobs. So what we have to do is figure out as a community, it's not just a Dayton issue. This is like this is a Montgomery County survey. There are thousands and thousands of jobs right now going unfilled because our residents don't have the skill sets that the employers are currently looking for. So, I think it's been pretty well said here already. I certainly agree with that, and I want to do everything I can to try to help improve our education system.
Yeah, I have a question for AJ and Nan. the best thing to do first would be to reach out to the suburbs. And my question is, how would you reach out to the suburbs? And would they even trust you?
I don't think that's fair for.
Yeah, I don't think
Karl
it's
to
really
answer
fair
for
for me
Nan.
to answer that on behalf of Nan. I just know, I'll just say as a county official, it's important for all of our jurisdictions to work together. There's been some comment about unified government. I'm not so certain that I see that as a real positive thing for our community. I think we certainly have community-wide problems that we can address on a regional basis, and I think having leadership in those different communities is important for us to have. So you certainly have to work cooperatively with those communities because there are a number of issues as some of the things we've talked about. When we talk about jobs and economic development and improving the economy of this region, it's not just a city of Dayton issue, it's a regional issue. It's an Ohio issue, and so you've got to have relationships and be able to build on those relationships both inside the city and outside the city, in Columbus and Washington. You've got to be able to make use of the contacts you develop over the years. I think Dan Whaley has done that, proven the ability to do that.
My years of representing the whole county, 20 years as elected official representing the entire county, I think give me some advanced ability here to have the relationships, because I've had the relationships for a long time with a lot of folks in the suburbs. Relationships are tough, though. You have to feed them and keep them going. I'm currently working with the county commissioners on the County Futures Project, which is going to help fund some of the preschool stuff we were talking about earlier, and is doing some of the job things that we need to do. I'm endorsed and supported by both Commissioner Lieberman and Commissioner Dodge, and I feel that that's important. I have a number of good relationships with a number of mayors around the community, and I've had it for years, and I think that we continue to nourish those relationships. And it's going to be good, I think, that if I become mayor, I have a real commitment to working with them. This is not just Dayton's problem. And when something good happens in Riverside, that's good for Dayton. If Riverside brought in a factory with 500 jobs, at least 50 of those are going to go to people in Dayton, number one. Number two, those taxes are going to support St. Clair, our parks, some of our schools. We're going to win if they win. And so we have to be able to work together to support them as they support us too. And I think that we'll find ways to do that by bringing people together frequently and making sure we continue to build relationships so that when things get tough or go bad, we have the relationships to survive that kind of stuff.
Excuse me. I'm not one of the mayor candidates, but I think I want to make a comment on that. I don't think our first priority should be to reach out to those who are outside the city. I think our first priority is to get our own house in order and to build that trust within the city of Dayton with our citizens about where we want to go. Again, as I indicated before, working with 5 counties that I currently do at this point in time, as AJ mentioned, they all have their set of problems. And I know in working with some of the school districts in the past, they've said, well, we want to try to really help you fix some of the problems in Dayton, because if you don't fix them in Dayton, 2 and 3 and 4 years down the road, they're going to be out here in our communities as well. And they're exactly right. 5-6 years ago, a lot of the suburban areas did not have trouble passing school levies. Now they're having trouble passing school levies. One of the reasons why they're having trouble passing school levies is because when the Supreme Court made its ruling in 1997 that the way we fund schools is unconstitutional, and that school levies are one of the major reasons why, because rich communities continue to generate high dollars, poor communities generate low dollars. So there's always going to be that gap with regards to that. However, it was their legislators in the rural and suburban communities who refused to fix school funding because they were benefiting from that system at the time. Now that it's spilled over into their communities, all of us are hurting. The only thing is we're hurting worse in terms of addressing those particular issues.
30 seconds.
And I think that one of the things that we have to do too is as we talk about these political issues, like the city of Dayton for the last 2 bienniums in budget has had their local government fund cut. So let's minimize the dollars that we have to do the kind of things that we're talking about up here. We need to unify and work together to go to the legislators, whoever they are, and talk about, you can't talk out of both sides of your neck. You can't say to this group you want to make something good happen and then go to Columbus and vote to do the opposite. So we need to hold them accountable. Together, we need to do that. Thank you.
Yes, Commissioner Williams, you mentioned about a lot of the jobs in the area are unfilled, and I know that there's been some progress in bringing in technological companies and probably others as well. And also the schools are improving. So my question is, I know we have the Job Center, and I'm wanting to know if there's any other programs that any of you have in mind, and how's the Job Center doing in retraining a lot of the people that are more qualified for positions we no longer have in the area?
First of all, in terms of ways to try to help folks get jobs that are available, I think it's a collaborative effort. We kind of talked about that. I think we're trying to work with Dayton Public Schools, we're trying to work with Sinclair, we try to work with some of the state schools that are a little more affordable, Central State, Wright State, and UD is a great beacon for our region. Some folks can't afford it, but it's a great university. And we really try to work closely with places like Sinclair, our school systems, and of course the state schools. In terms of the Job Center, I gotta be honest. I get a lot of mixed results on what I hear about the Job Center. I think that's something we're continually trying to work on. And part of the issue with the Job Center is we have folks who go to the Job Center, unfortunately, with needs that are about like this. And you go to the Job Center, and the Job Center can only do a part of it. The other part is really formal education and training or certificates that you would get from a Sinclair. And that's where the other part of the community has to come into place. So I think we put certain pressures on the Job Center that may be unrealistic, if that makes sense. Thanks.
I've got one more comment, and this is kind of, I'm feeling very negative towards the city, and that's really bad because I work for the city. But I feel like I was on the priority board for 20 plus years, like 27 years. We were started hollering when they started wanting to redo 75. You have taken all the exits out of downtown, so you are now allowing everybody who's driving through to just bypass the city of Dayton. We were hollering before when they started talking about that to not let it happen, and the city commission just said, it'll be fine. Well, I don't think it's going to be fine. I think it's going to be one of the nails in Dayton's coffin. Then you've got these beautiful rec centers here. And someone came in and decided, we're changing everything. We're going to stop doing classes. So now we don't have Wagner anymore, so we have no more art classes. We've got, we've got the Zumba, we've got Pilates, we've got the workout. If you can't do any of those things, you have no reason to support the city of Dayton because the rec centers are not there for you. It's really bad. And then when I talk to a city commissioner and I get, well, I go out to Kettering because they have a better rec center. That's not the answer. I like my rec center. I like being able to do things in my neighborhood. But you guys have made it totally impossible because there's nothing here for me to do. I can't do Zumba. I can't do Pilates. I can't do the weight room. I can't do the pool. So why would I bother wanting to support this place? I really think that as a city commission, I'm very frustrated with you right now because you spend so much money on redoing the streets downtown so you can ride a bike on it, which I see very few people riding bikes downtown. Doing specific things. But yet what really matters, I think you guys just bury your head. And you worry about what's going to happen with the kids. But look at this. Do we have one kid in here? No. It's adults. We're the ones that are paying the taxes. We're the ones that are trying to survive. And we got no backing from you guys at all. We just feel like, that a lot of the times we feel like you're turning your back on us as your neighbors. So, that's something I feel very strongly about. And You know, it's been frustrating for me, and it's been frustrating, I've heard from a lot of other people. You know, it's pretty bad when we have to go to Kettering to get stuff. Why not move to Kettering when I can get it cheaper? You know, I mean, so, that's, if any of you guys want to respond, no, if any of you want to respond about that, feel free, but it's just something that's been really bugging a lot of people.
I feel your frustration. My neighborhood, when I first moved there, we were about 70% rentals, 30% owner occupied. We've changed it, so now it's about 70% owner occupied, or you know, owning the rentals, and we've transformed our community. We have reasons to live in South Park. We've got our own art center at Hope. We have a ladies book club. We have a ladies group that goes out to eat. The ladies do a lot more than the guys. We've had flash mobs for dog walks. We've done all kinds of, we have our progressive parties. South Park is working. And you know why? Because we gave up on the priority boards. We gave up on asking the city for help, and we did it ourselves. We stopped worrying about our historic houses so much, and we started worrying about the people inside them. And we realized that neighborhoods and communities are built by connecting people together and making them neighbors, friends. And it's worked. And there are things that I've learned from what we've done in South Park that I want to take to every other neighborhood organization. I want to cut out the layer of bureaucracy. I want neighborhood presidents and neighborhoods to have direct access to City Hall. And I want to reward neighborhoods for doing the things that make things work. Having tutoring centers after school for kids, starting up Boy Scouts, starting up Cub Scouts, starting up Girl Scouts, starting up sports teams, the things that we grew up with that sense of neighborhood, because that's what's missing in our community. We don't have a lack for buildings or new houses or anything else. We've got plenty of houses. What we lack is people who feel connected to each other and want to take pride in their community. And we can have that, but we've got to stop spending money on real estate purchase after real estate purchase after real estate purchase and subsidizing companies like General Electric. That's what got us to the place we are today. We can start those programs back up. Thank you.
There's a lot of communities that feel the same way you do. The issue is we all have to change our mindsets. You know, our city government infrastructure has a tendency to use antiquated methods and antiquated procedures, you know, in implementing things. Well, the same way of implementing things does not work for everyone. You know, every community is not the same. So there has to be some kind of tailoring for the individual communities and consideration for the difference in those communities, so that when our commission and our system of government decides to implement something, that it will be congenial and it will apply to communities across the city. See, that creates a lot of dissension, because when you're attempting to do things the same way for everyone, someone gets left out. And so those that get left out start feeling that there's something that is a lot more behind why our area didn't receive funding for this, or this area did not get any consideration for these types of funds for this project or this program. So it's a wholesome overall that's going to have to take place. But I feel that it does need to start with our city government infrastructure, because too many of our citizens are being left out of the equations.
Well, I was going to let them speak before I go, because they may want to add to it. Is that it? All right. I just want to say, first of all, I appreciate you sharing it. I mean, we got a relationship. You could have told me before tonight.
Oh,
But
well.
that's cool. That's cool.
I have talked to several commissioners.
Right, that's fine.
I just
I
haven't
wish
seen
I
you
had.
for a while.
I wish I had known. Because it's not the first time I've heard it. I have heard some issues, and perhaps it's going on throughout our whole system. I was at another recreation facility, and the same concern was that because if you look around, I mean, I'm impressed with your activity. You got a lot of young people here. You got people in the gym. You got people over here stretching. I saw people here working out. But the point you're making is, if you're not doing that, what's in it for you, right?
If you can't exercise,
And
you know,
I
if
think
you
it's
have health
and
issues.
all I'm gonna say is I think it's a valid concern. I heard it at our new Rexplex also, a very similar concern. And obviously, we're not perfect at all. I mean, these gentlemen, a couple of these gentlemen up here love talking about how imperfect we are. We are not perfect at all, and I will be the first to admit that. But we
Joe, you're perfect just the way you are.
Anyway, the thing we do though is we listen, and I've heard this now a couple of times, and obviously our staff who runs the recreation facilities thinks they're doing a great job, but I've heard enough to see that we need to take a look at this. We need to do some things that everybody can't go and play volleyball or Zumba. So I thank you for sharing, and I promise you something. Excuse me, I promise you something we've done about it. That's all I can do tonight.
Okay, and that's fine.
Thank you.
you.
Oh man, I thought everybody spoke. AJ, you
Sorry,
tricked
sorry.
me. Go ahead.
I don't think you were talking to me, but you were. I mean, you know, it's important for all of us to know what's going on, what's happening. One of the things that I'm proposing is that for all of our neighborhood leaders, and Becky, this will include you, is that at least once a week I have a breakfast that I invite all neighborhood leaders to. It's kind of like an Optimist Club or a Rotary Club. We come together, we talk about our issues, we talk about what's going on, and we address them as best as we can on a continuing basis. So next week, you see me again, and I got to report back to you what we're doing. When I told you I worked for the city manager's office, my job at the city manager's office was to handle the complaints. I was the complaint desk guy. And we had a system, and it worked. And I'd like to make sure that we have a system set up, now with computers, a system set up so that when somebody complains to us about something, that it goes onto that system. And there's continual follow-up to make sure that somebody's following up on those complaints and trying to do something with those issues. And that there are constantly updates being put on the computer so that anyone can look at it. It's very transparent. Anyone can look at it and see what we're trying to do to address those issues. I think that will go a long way toward at least letting people see that we're trying to do something to address issues. Sometimes we can, sometimes we can't. Money's certainly a huge issue for us. But I think that, again, I said earlier about relationships, and I think again about holding ourselves accountable. That we're going to be able to address things better, more thoroughly, and hopefully to everyone's satisfaction a little bit more. Not complete satisfaction, but a little bit better.
I know you guys are doing a good job. I love the recycling, and I think that's a great, you know, there are a lot of things that you guys aren't doing right. I'm not saying you're all wrong, but.
AJ, thank you for reading my literature. That's on there, the help desk software.
You're welcome. I don't think
I want to.
Just let me say.
Yeah, I want to have any background music while I was talking. The concern you raised is very valid. I know that in 2007, the school district cut music, art, and PE in its elementary schools and cut every sport except football, basketball, and track in the high schools. And they did that because I think they got some bad advice or bad information or combination of the two. And what we found later that year, I got on the school board. And we looked at some data, and we found out that during the time, the aftermath of those cuts, we had a 20% increase in suspensions for negative behavior for elementary students as well as high school students. We went from continuous improvement, where we had just moved to, back to academic watch. Now all the way down to academic emergency, but academic watch. And the rationale for making those cuts was to save $180,000. Now, when I got on the board, working with some other members of the community and some other board members, we immediately got about $180,000 back in about a month and a half. But we didn't get everything put back in place at the time we wanted to get it put back in place. Later that year, we got the school, all those things back in place. But what we also found is not only did we lose, we saved $180,000, but we lost $1.4 million because 200 children at the high school transferred out to other school districts to play sports at $7,000 each. So sometimes when we're making decisions, we make decisions based on bad information or bad advice. And as was mentioned before, we have to sit down and talk to make sure that we're not penny wise and pound foolish. A lot of the problems that we have in the community that are related to violence when we talk to young people is because they don't have anything to do. So gang banging and violent type activities is their form of recreation. And we have to provide a better job. And it's not their fault that they're doing some of the things that they do. They should use some better judgment, but it's our fault as adults because we created some of these conditions.
Well, it's 8 o'clock, so we should break now.